There are two ways in which any government can proceed. One is a way based on what you and I would call a free society, which is enshrined right at the heart of the American Constitution. The other one is a way which allows only one view, both of economics and politics, in which almost everything is either owned or controlled by the state, including the media, including the ideas, including freedom of discussion and everything. There is no freedom of discussion. Now, between those two ways, the free society and the totally controlled society, there are, of course, variations. I think what we've learned in Britain is that we've gradually, over the last certainly 12 or 13 years, with perhaps a little interruption, gone slowly further and further away from the free society towards something else. At the same time, we've found, I don't find it strange, but some other people do, that we have stopped creating wealth. We've had a large number of increasing restrictions. And you've been finding two things. First, that we are more and more concentrating on redistributing the wealth we've got, rather than creating any more. To create more, you need a slightly freer society, and you need an incentive society. Naturally, when I see that happening, I look with very great alarm to societies which have gone even further left. That is, they've tried to redistribute even more and haven't had the incentives for people working hard on their own account, doing well for their families, and often then being able to create jobs for others. They've produced a much more prosperous society than we have.
We fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This is a great piece from the Free Beacon. It's entitled Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the Collapse of the Centre-Left. But there's much more to this story, but it's well worth reading yourself. It's from Matthew Continetti, who I'm sure you recognise the name. He appears quite regularly on Special Report on Fox News. Here's the piece. I have a new hobby. It's collecting excuses Democrats make for Ilhan Omar and the Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman who has an unhealthily fixation on the Jewish influence, Jewish money and Jewish loyalty. Omar has said that Israel hypnotized the world, attributing Jews with the power of mind control in the service of manipulating public opinion. She said the only reason Congress supports Israel is Jewish campaign donations, most recently using the classic anti-Semitic trope of dual loyalty. She criticized supporters of Israel for having allegiance to a foreign power. It's a bit rich, isn't it? A real treasure, Omar is. A typical freshman congresswoman sees her mission as, forgive the expression, bringing home the bacon for her district. Not Ilhan. Her project is to mainstream anti-Semitic rhetoric with the Democratic Party. Once upon a time, you'd have to visit the invaluable website of the Middle East Media Research Institute to hear her such tripe. Now all you have to do is flip on C-SPAN, and Democrats are powerless to stop it. They're tripping over themselves, making rationalizations, dodging reality, and trying to clean up this anti-Semitic mess. Omar is new to this, they say. She never intended to come across as anti-Semitic. She can't help it. She comes from a different culture. Ooh, we're not allowed to say that in Canada. She didn't know what she was saying. She's a moron. She's just trying to start a conversation about the policies of Israel's government. And why are you singling her out anyway? She's living through a lot of pain, unquote. She's black, she's a woman, she's a Muslim. You can't condemn her without condemning white men of privilege. What are you, racist? Islamophobic? Shame on you. for picking on this poor lady who just happens to say that American Jews serve a foreign power by buying off politicians and using the force to blinker people's minds. Before such, quote, arguments, they really are assertions of victimhood to intimidate critics, Nancy Pelosi shudders. She's supposed to be this iron lady returned to power after exile, ruling a caucus with a vice-like grip, but her hands are covered in palmolive. She spent the first weeks of Congress doing little more than responding to various insanities of Omar and Rashid Tlaib of Michigan. Pelosi will condemn Omar 1 minute before appearing with her on the cover of Rolling Stone the next. She's lost a step. She can't hold her caucus together when Republicans call for motions to recommit on the House floor. The policies her candidates ran on in swing districts vanished under the solar-powered glare of AOC and the Green New Deal, which, as I keep telling everybody if you'd listen, is not hers. It comes from the UK and a far-left think tank. We are not talking about covering pre-existing conditions. We are pledging to rid the world once and for all of the scourges of air travel and cow flatulence. Pelosi's trigger-happy committee chairmen firing their subpoena cannons into the air at random look like goofballs desperate to impeach President Trump. Whatever control Pelosi had over her majority vanished the second she delayed the resolution condemning Omar. It then became undeniable that AOC and co. were in charge. Identity politics has rendered the Democrats incapable of criticising anti-Semitism so long as it dons the wardrobe of, I don't know what this word is, I've never heard of it, intersectionality. What the heck is that? I'm really going to offend Americans now. The United States has the ability, this is me speaking, to create words which are, how can I put it politely to my American friends, bizarre. My favourite, of course, is hospitalisation. Anyway, I'm going to continue with the piece. Sorry, I like to have a bit of fun. It's nothing short of incredible that 3 women from 3 different cities, New York, Detroit and Minneapolis, can run roughshod over 233 other House Democrats, with a little help from social media, of course. Woke 24-year-olds in the digital press and Congressional Black Caucus. If you are AOC right now, you must love life from the comfort of your test kitchen in your luxury DC apartment building. What's next for this trio, 2 of whom are members of the Democratic Socialists of America? See, I told you. 2 of whom support the boycott, divestment sanctions movement that seeks Israel's destruction. And that's also going on very heavily in the Republic of Ireland, by the way, which I've done a piece on that previously. All 3 of whom combine radical anti-American policies with radical self-regard, finding a candidate to primary pro-Israel Democrat Eliot Engel, chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee on which Omar sits, challenging Chuck Schumer in the Democratic primary when he's up for re-election in 2022. Ooh, how about that, folks? They're going after the big guns in the Democrat Party. Gosh, what a surprise. That's going to crash and burn, isn't it? The most pressing order of business has got to be the 2020 presidential election. Omar and AOC and Tlaib don't strike me as a Cory Booker supporter. Amy Klobuchar might be too much of a taskmaster for them. Most likely, the radicals will line up behind the current frontrunner, Bernie Sanders, who has already surrounded himself with anti-Israeli activists. What a surprise. Here's just an aside here. No, we'll carry on. Sanders has said criticism of Omar just the means to stifle debate over Israel's government. He's too smart to believe that. As the most successful Jewish presidential candidate in history, he has a responsibility to draw lines. After all, he's no stranger to the dual loyalty charge. Though, of course, in his case, the other country was the Soviet Union. This is where people need to explore that considerably deeper than they're doing. He had his honeymoon in the Soviet Union when it was the Soviet Union. Why does anybody go to the Soviet Union for a honeymoon? If you believe in capitalism, there's something very, very wrong there. And if the American press don't explore that, just like they didn't explore Obama's background, well, we know where that led. I'll continue with the piece. Bernie Sanders has no interest in stopping Omar. He recognized that she represents the impending transformation of the Democrat Party into something more closely resembling the British Labour Party. Ooh, I don't think so. I think that's an American looking at British politics from the outside. You have no idea what's going on in the UK at the moment. Okay, we'll continue. Labourites elected an avowed socialist, Jeremy Corbyn, party leader in 2015. I have to interject there. I'm sorry, I have to interject. Jeremy Corbyn is not a socialist. Jeremy Corbyn was officially a member of the Communist Party. He has denied that he is currently a member of the Communist Party, but that's what communists do. So if you're comparing the Democrats with the Labour Party, you want to think hard about that, because Jeremy Corbyn is an avowed communist. Do Americans want to vote for a communist president? I don't think so. I don't think they've moved that far yet. The article continues. The years since have been spent in one anti-Semitism scandal after another. Sanders wants desperately to be the American Corbyn. Oh my God, are you kidding? I don't think Americans know who Corbyn is. If anti-Semitism is the price of a socialist America, so be it. Remember what Stalin said about the omelette. I'm sure Bernie does. If Democrats rebuke Omar swiftly and defiantly, if they have trouble competing with AOC's Instagram cooking show, how will they be able to stop Sanders from carrying his devoted block of supporters to plurality victories in early primaries, using the divided field to gain momentum, just as Trump did? So far this year, the Democrats have floundered in a pit of racism, sexual assault, and anti-Semitism. They have embraced policies akin to infanticide. I don't like that word, and I'm sure you don't. It's murder. Okay? Murder. And announced plans to expropriate wealth, pay reparations for slavery, eliminate private health insurance within 2 years, and rebuild or retrofit every building in the United States before the world ends from climate change in 12 years from now. Throughout it all, they have received a pass from the know-nothing media. Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, and Sanders have all made the claim that Omar has done nothing but criticize policies of Bibi Netanyahu. And that is a bald-faced lie, a falsehood not one of the hundreds upon hundreds of reporters covering the Democratic field has scrutinized. They are the very people who have spent the past 3 years sermonizing on the importance of truth in politics, but they are doing nothing, and they are doing Bernie's work for him. Elaine Kamarek of the Brookings Institution insists that the Democratic Party continues to be centre-left, but the election returns and public opinion data that support her thesis become less and less important when the party's biggest stars make a hard left. The Democrats seem ripe for a takeover by Bernie and his pals, or at least the blistering and incendiary battle for control similar to what the GOP experienced last time round. I'm sorry to interrupt in between all that, but I want to say a few things here. I've seen Matthew Continetti on Special Report, as have you, and no one can have got it further wrong, that's terrible in English, than he has on Corbyn. Corbyn is a communist. He is a communist. That is why the Labour Party candidates are running for the hills. They cannot support his socialist, only on the outskirts views of what they want to make Britain turn into. Go to Britain. Spend a few weeks with Corbyn and you come back and tell me I'm wrong. Don't make the mistake of staying in London. Go around the cities in the country. There are many cities in the UK, not just one. It's just like when Brits come to America. They go to New York and Washington, or they may fly over to Los Angeles, and they've done America. Well, I think you'd be offended about that too. Britain is more than London, much more than London. There's a lot of radical people in the UK, and Corbyn is representing just a small minority of people, not the majority. But it's funny how the media blow it up, isn't it? And it's funny how the media don't report things, isn't it? As I said before, that's how Obama got elected. I remember listening to Hannity in 2007-8, when Obama was coming onto the scene, and he was the only one who said, "Who is this guy? What do we know about him?" And they started investigating, and they were telling people what he was about, but the media did nothing. Crickets, crickets, crickets. They now have the opportunity to investigate these people, particularly Bernie Sanders, who I consider as utterly dangerous. He wouldn't pass an FBI background check, would he? It's unbelievable to me that anybody can even consider him as a leader of a party to run for President of the United States. Unbelievable. But on the same account, Jeremy Corbyn, who is a communist. There's no question, he's a communist. And we've got one up here who's trying to shut down the leader of the opposition from speaking. Are you going to have that future in the United States where nothing can be said, where the media control everything? And just finally, this week in Canada, you probably didn't hear about it. Facebook shut down, I don't know who they are because I don't follow them, what they claim to be far-right people in Canada. They shut down their Facebook pages. And the government applauds that because they don't want an alternative view. But more importantly than that, it doesn't end there. This is like the Nazis. Not only are they shutting down those Facebook pages, they're digging down into all the followers on those Facebook pages. And it's no point if you try and delete them because they've got records. They keep records. So all the people who follow those groups, who are on those groups, will also be targeted by Facebook just for seeing what's going on, getting an alternative opinion. And they're likely to have their Facebook accounts wiped as well. Whatever happened to free speech and open and fair dialogue? Where are we going in the West that we can allow groups, individuals and governments to usurp our freedoms? Who are these people? What right do they have? The answer is they don't have any rights, and they're not Democrats. They're not democratic people. And they're not just in the United States, they're not just in Canada, they're in every Western country. We have to root them out, we have to put them in the light of day and call them out for what they are. They're communists. Matthew Conanetti is missing the point. AOC, Omar, all the rest of them are communists. They are communists. I'm sorry to say this, but this is the 1950s all over again. And it's far more serious than it was then, and it was pretty serious then. And that's my comment. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab and email. We're also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on these links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio, and click on the like button. And you can hear a review of our morning moments on WHBJ-DB, News Talk Radio on Spreaker.com. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.